Welcome, everyone. Please join, settle in. We'll start in like 2-3 minutes. Welcome to the Pocketnet Take Back the Internet Challenge. It's going to be an exciting session. We'll start in just a minute or two. Let people settle in. Okay, as we get settled in, can I ask you to give me a sign like a thumbs up or a plus in chat in case you hear me clearly? If you hear me okay, give me like a plus or +1 or thumbs up in the chat. How's the sound? All right. Thank you, David. Thank you. Thank you, no one important. You're important. Rissa, thank you. David and Marcin, thank you all. Okay, good. We're going to get started. Can hear. Perfect. Abby, thank you. So we'll get started with the session. And note is that you can ask questions in the chat, but they won't be necessarily answered immediately. We'll try to answer them. Well, we'll try to answer them in the end. So we'll start in a minute. Give me 1 minute and we'll get started. Okay, perfect. We're starting with our Pocketnet Take Back the Internet challenge. We're gonna have 4 sessions. So one is today, June 10th. The next one is next Thursday, June 17th. Then the Thursday after that, June 24th, and then June 29th. The sessions will not be recorded, so you're gonna get all the best content. We'll release some of the content, publicly, but sort of in pieces. My name is Daniel Sachkov. I am a person who has invented a lot of the concepts behind Pocketnet, though I am not really a developer. So there are other people who are actively coding on the platform. So there are 15 people at this point, just coders, and there's other people involved. We're going to have one of them today, the very talented programmer, Julien from France. He will present something that we're working on. Again, I'm Daniel. I'll walk you through the challenge. The goal today is for us to talk about the concepts behind Pocketnet. But before we get into Pocketnet, I really want to talk about the reason for Pocketnet existence, sort of, why. Why does it need to exist? Right now in crypto, and crypto is a very exciting space, but many things, maybe even most things that are out there don't need to exist. The question that we're going to answer, why does Pocketnet need to exist? What problem is it solving and for whom, right? So I'm going to get to some slides, but it's not going to be all slides. Let me start with the question for you. Right? You have a chat, so we'll interact a little bit. What I'd like you to think of, and go as crazy as you can. This is not an exam. I'm going to ask you what is a blockchain, and you have to give me one word answer. For example, it doesn't have to be precise definition, right? It's one word that you associate with blockchain. So blockchain, I'll tell you, it's a ledger, right? Blockchain, another word, crypto. Any other ledger? Okay, Chris, thank you. Ledger is a good one. That first comes to mind. Awesome. Anybody? Decentralized, perfect. So that's a very important aspect that we take for granted, right? Decentralized. Oh, this is a great audience. So encrypted, right? Encrypted, right? So it has something to do with encryption. Security, database, perfect, Matt. This database is a very important concept here. Security, we'll talk about why security. Immutability, right? Freedom, decentralized, open source. This is great. Thank you for all these, and keep them coming. Censorship proof. So this is what comes to mind when we think of blockchain, pays for itself. Yes, pays for itself. That's right. It's basically another, Darren, another word of saying that it has an internal economy, right? So we know what's going on in the economy out there. It seems to be very rigged, unfair, and not very productive these days. We'll talk about that, right? So we'll talk about the big picture first. A foundation, right? So, George, do you mean like a foundation as in like a foundation of funds, or foundation as in a group of people, like a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization or something, right? So there could be different meanings of the word foundation. So blockchain has quite a few meanings, and I love the crowd here because it's clearly, we hear like decentralized, like the most important things about the blockchain. Obviously the people on the call here understand, what it is, because if you ask generally people, they'll talk about, speculation and investment, which is all there, but that's not the main reason, for blockchain's existence. So how many, and I'm going to ask you a question, how many of you are familiar with what a platform is? There's like a platform business or a platform in the business world. Can you give me like a plus, or a plus one if you're familiar with the definition of what a platform is? Yeah, Joel plus, David, another David, uh, John, thank you. So yeah, we'll talk about this. So sounds like quite a few people know what a platform is. So a platform, I'm not gonna like go on textbook definitions. Platform is a sort of a place. It could be a real place or a virtual place where different people come together. So it doesn't produce anything itself. It just facilitates people coming together and interacting in some way, right? Economic or otherwise. So we know some examples of the platforms that we'll talk about. Like platforms are, social media businesses are a big example, recent example. Like Facebook is a platform, but not just that. I mean, Amazon is a platform. Most businesses now are trying to be, platforms. In a sense, Microsoft was one of the early, tech platforms, right? So the platform, though they produce something, but their core was that they produce an operating system. It's like a meeting place of different, software producers and software users. That's what you can think of the operating system in the PC. You can think of it that way. So platform is very, very important. So I will say that one important definition, and I think you gave a lot of great definitions of what a blockchain is. One important definition that I think is sort of in the background, it's always there implicitly, but people don't talk about it enough, is that blockchain and, Bitcoin in itself are really ultimate platforms. They're different kinds of platforms, but really what it is a platform, right? Any currency, and this is an important thing, money is the ultimate platform. If you think about it, money is not that different from a social network, right? Well, you take a social network and money, ultimately, if you really look deep, they're very, very similar, right? Money is a platform that allows producers and consumers to interface. Same thing that a social network does. And I think if you understand that, you will understand one of the core reasons for Pocketnet's existence is that we understand that money is a platform, and it's very much like a social platform. So there's no need to be very narrow in the definition. Just say it's a social network. Yeah, social network is kind of one aspect of the platform, very important one. But let me show you a couple of slides. So now we'll talk about the platforms. What's going on sort of with the platforms these days, or when I say these days, I mean last, certain number of years, let's say last 10 years. I took this slide from an article. I forgot the name of the author. It's an amazing, simple slide. As you know, everything good is, good explanations are simple. So look at this slide real carefully, and you will understand. In this slide, you will see the reason, not fully, but you'll see the reason for Pocketnet's existence. In general, what we hear about the platforms right now, like if you think of the companies that are most hated in the world, that are really truly hated by people, all of them are platforms. That's strange, right? Because we thought the platform is this great thing. Its existence in ancient times, you had bazaars in the Middle East, and they're platforms, right? So it existed for a long time. Yet, who are the hated companies? It's inevitably like Facebook and Amazon, and others. Twitter. Add Twitter to that list. lately. And you can sort of go on with that, right? A US dollar with the Federal Reserve is a platform too. I don't think it's very popular either. So, but we tend to focus on personalities like, oh, Mark Zuckerberg, or Jack Dorsey. By the way, we'll get to that. Recently there was an epic troll by one of Pocketnet fans of Jack Dorsey. But we focus on personalities a little bit because we're humans, we're social, we want to focus on put a sort of face to the name. But in reality, this is not about personalities. Platforms have certain laws for their existence. These are just like laws. They're much stronger than even just economic laws. So platforms exist like this in this cycle. If you're a user of Facebook, this area here is like 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12. This is where they attract you. They have to attract you. So what they do is they attract you by giving you lots of good stuff for free, right? And if you remember, the businesses remember many years ago on Facebook, you could have this amazing audience. You would just show up, and all of a sudden you have an audience. I tend to wave hands a lot. This is exciting for me. So you would have this audience, and they gave you a lot. They gave you this audience for free. They didn't take it away. They didn't ask you for much money. They just let you earn. But then at a certain point in time, over time, they begin to extract value. This is for a centralized platform. This is absolutely natural. It does not matter whether it's run by Jack Dorsey or Mark Zuckerberg or somebody else. That's what they do, and they do the same thing with everybody in the ecosystem. So, like, you're a business on Facebook, they cooperate with you, they give you stuff, and then they take it away. And when you're at this point, you get to this point, right? What happens here? What happens when they start taking it away? Theoretically, a free market should kick in, and that's what happened in the history. Platforms existed for a long time, right? They existed since time immemorial, and they always this always happened. When platform got big, it would start extracting value, but there was a limit. There was always a limit to how much they could extract, because as they were extracting, they would face two forces. Two forces would be against them. One is competition, creative destruction. Joseph Schumpeter, who likes economics, creative destruction would destroy these platforms, come up with new platforms that are more nimble. The other force would be just the pushback from society. I mean, a lot of the time, it came in various kind of antitrust regulation. It doesn't have to be a regulation per se. It could be a revolution, but it was just like antitrust forces that would go push against them. But if you look, if I show you the next slide, you'll see that in the last 10 years, something quite unbelievable happened. Well, two things happened to make these platforms incredibly powerful and incredibly hated at the same time, and we'll see what these are. So this is just a picture, right? I don't know who saw the movie Gremlins. Who's old enough to see the movie Gremlins? I don't see in the chat. Anybody? Do we have? Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Wow. Quite a few. So no teenagers here. Good. So gremlins are these furry creatures that turn out to be, start out. This is my metaphor that I think about platforms this way. So they start out very nice, and then you pour some water on them. It's actually a great metaphor, because if you think of water as liquidity and free money from Federal Reserve, that's what happens. So they really give you lots of value, and then what happens here? Free money by the Fed and complete abandonment of any antitrust oversight. So this is what happened in our cycle. We had these platforms were growing immensely. The first factor was the technology, the internet, because internet is one of the ultimate platforms. And so all these secondary platforms would sit on top of internet. That gives them incredible power to spread, virality and all this. Now, theoretically, at some point, all of them had to hit competition. So like Facebook had to have been competed away. So with Twitter and so on. Theoretically, that's what should have happened, maybe by like 2014, 2015. The problem is that, first of all, the competition was destroyed. How was it destroyed? Well, by these companies getting free money. When you have free money, what can you do? You can buy anybody. Remember the story with WhatsApp. And supposedly Brian Acton, the founder of WhatsApp, is like a freedom-oriented person. So remember, I said personalities don't matter. Personalities don't matter. What matters are the mechanics, organizational mechanics. So Brian Acton was a very freedom-oriented person, but yet when WhatsApp grew, The company was offered $19 billion, I think, from Facebook. It was a lot at the time, right? Maybe now it doesn't seem like a lot, but it was a lot. It doesn't matter, depend on him. He had to agree. He has a board, he has shareholders. So any corporation was bought out. So competing with these platforms, trying to temper down their appetites through competition does not work anymore, because they either destroy you or they buy you out. Now, a few years ago, they would prefer to mostly buy you out. I think they got to a point where they just say, we don't even need to buy you out. We'll just destroy you, right? And they can. So this happened, this free money flowed, technology, new technology was available, and antitrust doesn't exist, right? Nobody said, you guys are anti-competitive, you're banning people, you're doing all this stuff. So you're taking people who invested in your platform, turning around, and as a business right now, you can't even reach your subscribers on Facebook. You have to pay to reach your own subscribers, which you brought to Facebook. It's pretty hilarious. So well, hilarious in a tragic way. How do they do this exactly, right? We'll see. This is the Facebook. I just did this up to 2018 because it's all clear where it goes from there, right? It just shoots up. But there was a time when Facebook had a profit. So at first, when they started, they were running it as a kind of a normal business, the normal business trying to get profits and so on. But then they realized, somebody smart told Zuckerberg, is like, you don't have to run it this way. You don't need to run a real business. You have a printing press, you have free money. Why don't you just run negative margin and crush everybody? And Facebook had a kind of a plateau. They started very fast in 2008 and so on, but they had a plateau around here. And how did they overcome that plateau? They just went negative, right? They started giving lots of value, and gradually they started extracting it. Twitter, actually, nobody remembers this. Twitter is also not very well liked now, but just a few years ago, Twitter, like 3-4 years ago, was much more liked than Facebook. Again, people thought that, well, it's difference in personality. Jack Dorsey maybe is this freedom-oriented guy. Well, that's got nothing to do with personalities. Twitter just started later. They had to give for longer. So if you look at their net margin, right, they kept giving and giving much longer when Facebook was already extracting. So then they started to try to extract both money and power by banning people, and we know what happened, right? So now we can talk about the existence of Pocketnet, because remember, if we go back and talk about this slide, the key, the kink in the armor of these companies would be competition. If somebody competed and offered better value to creators and better value to users, frankly. I mean, how could we offer better value to users? Well, when you're using Facebook, you are the goods. Facebook sells you. You don't pay because you're the goods that's being sold. And so there would be better value would be if you had a platform that you don't have to pay, but it doesn't sell you out. The question is, how could you have a platform that doesn't sell you out, in light of what I said about WhatsApp? WhatsApp, and this is literal quote from the founder of WhatsApp: I sold my users down the river. He was like really regretful. So what can you do to avoid a new platform selling users down the river? Well, the way to avoid it is only one at this point that I see, other than changing something in the system, which I think is beyond us, but it's decentralization. That's why Bitcoin is exciting. That's the core promise of decentralization. And all of you correctly said, decentralization, censorship resistance, all of them amount to one thing. Really, they amount to, hey, say Facebook can't buy you. Even if I want it, and which I don't, but I'm just one founder. There's lots of people working on it. I'm kind of the inventor, the math geek, scientist type person. But there are people who are working on it. Even if they all wanted to sell it, there's nothing to sell. It's an open source, decentralized platform. There's no shares. You can't, you can fork it at any time if you do a better job. We welcome, if somebody wants to take the idea and fork it and do something with it. So crypto allows us to break that vicious cycle, to break the cycle of, you get technology, you get free money, you grow, and you just buy everything up or destroy everything. That's why Pocketnet exists. That's why it will survive. That's why it's becoming more and more popular every day, is because it's offering this value proposition, right? So we're gonna talk about next, and we will get to some questions. Don't worry. So let me get to a couple of next slides. So what is the opportunity for decentralized platforms? I don't think I need to tell you that censorship is completely out of control. Whether you agree or not with people being censored, you know, and you know what? Censorship is kind of a tricky word because there's always some censorship. I mean, you can't have uh, uh, horrible things, right? They're different for everybody, but I think we all agree that like pedophilia is horrible. You don't want to have that ever anywhere. It has to be destroyed. You can't have that. So there has to be some form of censorship. The problem is not just censorship per se. The problem is arbitrary censorship. You see, arbitrary is when Twitter decides to shadow ban you. Twitter decides to close your account, and they've been doing it for a long time. But they try to present themselves as like these freedom-oriented, uh, Buddhists or whatever they are. But that's not true. Their organization inherently, if it's not checked, it's just going to eat everything. You know that saying, software is eating the world. It's really the platforms that are eating the world. But the only thing between them eating the world completely is I think is crypto. That's why I love Bitcoin in particular. I think it's a highly decentralized system, most decentralized of all. And that's what we're doing Pocketnet. It's got the model of Bitcoin. So arbitrary censorship will not work. You have to make rules have to be there, but the rules have to be followed. But it's not just about censorship. That's the key point. I think that people think only about the censorship. Censorship will always affect many people, but there are always enough people in the society that are willing to just comply. Unfortunately, but that's just a fact. But there's also a huge economic incentive, because if you think about what going back to these slides, how is Facebook extracting this value, right? And now they're extracting much more. How is Amazon now extracting this value? Well, in Facebook's case, they're just taking money from creators, because ultimately, if you publish something in Facebook, you're working for Facebook. You don't know it. You're just working for free. But they've turned it around so that you work for them, but instead of paying you, they're also ask you to pay to actually work for them. See, crypto doesn't work that way. Crypto provides the opportunity for creators to really make what they make. And the whole platform of crypto is great because it's decentralized, but also it's low cost. Many people talk this baloney about Bitcoin and energy and all this stuff. By the way, Pocket Coin is the token of Pocketnet. It is proof of stake coin, but not because of energy. There are other reasons for why it's proof of stake. I'll talk about it. So people talk about Bitcoin being wasteful and so on, but in fact, Bitcoin is like the cheapest absolutely way to get social consensus, to just get decentralized social consensus. First of all, there are no, others don't exist. That is really the only way. But it's also very, very cheap in that it uses computing power that's already there. Like Pocketnet social network is a competitor to Facebook and Twitter, but it doesn't need servers. So by not needing servers, we take away, first of all, their ability to shut down servers like on Amazon. And we're also using resources very, very efficiently. So in fact, crypto is a highly efficient system. It uses things very, very efficiently. And value, we see the third slide I have here. Value is increasingly gated by Facebook and YouTube. They want to take it away. Whereas in crypto, it doesn't happen, right? Participants always end up with value because the system is decentralized. And so monetary disenfranchising, that leads this dissatisfaction because bloggers now are making less and less on YouTube. And you see that lately YouTube has become just like another page for CNN. It's got all these like top news outlets that they push. And then as a blogger, I don't know, there are probably some favorite bloggers they have that make good money, but in general, they're gaining most of the revenue. The other thing we'll talk about, the opportunity for decentralized platforms, is privacy. Okay? When you're on Google, we all know this, right? They know everything about you. They know where you surfed internet. They know what you wrote in your Gmail emails. They know everything about you. Facebook knows what you wrote in WhatsApp, what you wrote in Facebook. They have like complete data set on you. So there's no privacy. That's one thing. But it is worse. It's not just privacy, it's security. And that was a great, I forgot who put it in the chat. Somebody wrote, when I asked what the meaning of the blockchain is, I wrote security, right? And blockchains, one of the biggest values of crypto is security, because developers do not control your keys. Your private keys are with you. And yes, somebody might steal your private keys. That's true. But you see what happens right now. We see every day these hackers, whether they're real hackers or who knows, but there's hackers are stealing people's data. Now all of a sudden they're attacking mostly supply chains lately. They all agreed to attack supply chains, but they used to mostly steal bank data, personal data, right? They steal all this data, they take it away, and then they basically sell it. So you're being sold. Why? Because all of your personal data is stored in one place. So not only Google and Facebook can use the data against you, but anybody who can break in will use the data against you. And that's horrible because you can never safeguard data. You can ask any security expert, they will tell you the centralized depositories of data will always leak one way or another. It's going to be external, internal, social engineering. When you centralize data, it's going to be lost. So whatever data you hold centrally, some people say, well, I'm not worried about it. I always comply with censors. I'm not going to do anything against the censorship. So I'm not worried that they have all my personal stuff. Well, them having it means sooner or later some hacker will get it and your life is exposed. Very few people are comfortable with that. I'm certainly not comfortable with putting all my stuff into centralized platforms. So crypto is opposite. Everybody has their own private key. So to steal 10 million social security numbers from Capital One or whatever that hack was, it takes one hack. Yes, elaborate, but one hack. To steal 10 million Bitcoin private keys, I mean, good luck. You'll run out, and quantum computers will not help you there. They're not a threat at this point. But regardless, it's just not possible. So decentralization, in fact, is privacy, is security, is prosperity. It's got like all these virtuous things built into it that we can use for Pocketnet. Okay, so the main Pocketnet advantages are censorship resistance, fair value distribution. Uh, when I say fair, I mean it's not like centralized; it's decentralized, free market basically. Consumers get more value and advertisers get more value. We'll talk about advertising and how Pocket Coin is used. So we created this little slide. This is not scientific, but it does describe very, very well the difference between Pocketnet and let's say Facebook, Twitter. Yes, they're in the middle. Yes, they have a lot of money. Yes, they're clawing all this money. So they're sitting there and they're clawing all this money, power. They're banning those people who they don't like. So they're sitting in the middle of it. And it seems like they absolutely are indestructible. And if you think of going against them in a corporate way, they are indestructible. No matter how well meaning your corporation is, it just got too many weak points. It will be bought up and so on. The only way to do this is Bitcoin. Bitcoin way is like you have equal nodes, right? This network here, people are connected directly to each other. And that's how Pocketnet works. For those of you who are users, if you're not users, I think Julian, our front end, very talented front end developer, is throwing some links in the chat where to sign up. But the core that you need to understand in Pocketnet is that when you use Pocketnet, you don't talk to a certain central server. You are talking to other nodes, maybe other users. So, what the difference that we've made is many people try to build this, but they used to use things like decentralized hash tables and basically things that don't work very well, that are very, very slow. And what we've done is we really made a protocol that works much more like Bitcoin in the sense that every user can connect directly to a node. If one node is shut down, it connects to another node. And there's always an economic incentive, right? Somebody wrote in the chat, pays for itself. The definition of blockchain is it pays for itself. Well, it does pay for itself because you don't need to put external money into it. There's enough incentive if the token is valuable and Pocketcoin is valuable, people will run nodes. We have hundreds of nodes already. So Pocketcoin, you can see Pocketcoin is already traded on a few exchanges. Julian, if you can throw a link to Biloxi, it rose significantly. Just started trading a couple of months ago. Rose significantly. We really just came out of beta test. Pocketnet just came out of beta test. We just launched the video feature like 10 days ago. And so every computer that uses Pocketnet will talk to nodes. But I will say there is one challenge that we have to solve, and it's mobile. What's happening on a mobile device is a little bit different. Your computer is a much freer device, if I can use that term, than mobile phone, smartphone. Smartphones are very, very gated because if you're an Android, you basically go by their rules. If you're an iPhone, you go by their rules, and you cannot really bypass them. And if you're going to have the app, so we have the Android app, we don't have the iOS app. Why? Because Apple told us we'll allow you to have the app, but on 24-hour notice, you have to ban anyone we tell you. Otherwise, there'll be like fines. So you know what we told them. I'm not going to say it because it's PG-13 here. But can we overcome that? Because 90% of usage is going to be mobile, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. So we have to get to the mobile. And actually, Julian is part of the very talented front-end team. We have these people around the world that just come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden they're doing great stuff. He's working on using a technology called BPWA to do the same thing you see on the right slide here, to do that for the mobile phones. So he's going to talk for about 10 minutes about that technology that's almost ready. We probably 2 weeks. So when you go to the next session next Thursday, it may be released, but certainly by the following session, and you should attend all 4 because they're all going to be interesting, you will see this PWA release. PWA will allow us to have decentralization within the phone to a very large degree, meaning that your phone, you'll be able to talk to the nodes. And I'm going to pass it to Julian. Please welcome. And I will answer the questions. I'm sorry, we'll go through some stuff and we'll get to all the questions. So I'm going to make Julian the host. Julian, are you here?
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Take it away. You got 10 minutes or so, and then I'll jump back in to talk about some more stuff about Pocketcoin.
All right. Thank you. So hello, everyone. My name is Julian. So as Daniel said, I'm part of the development team, especially the front-end part. So today I'm going to talk about the new exciting feature that is coming up very soon on Pocketnet. We're talking about a few weeks, and it's called PWA. So as you can see, it stands for Progress Web Application. But what's exactly a Progress Web Application? Well, an easy way to describe it is it's like a website that looks and behaves as if it was a mobile application. Because of that, we will benefit from several advantages. The first one is how easy it is to install a Progress Web application. For example, here we can see an Android device running Pocketnet through a browser. In this case, it's a Google Chrome browser, but it doesn't really matter. It can be Safari on iOS or Firefox. To install the app, very easy. You just need to open one menu, click on Install App, and that's it. You're done. So this is going to install the app on your phone or your computer, and it will create a new icon on your home screen or your desktop, exactly like if you were installing an app through a store. But here, the good thing is we don't need to go through a store. So that's a very powerful feature. It means no censorship, and you have an almost instant installation. Now you're probably wondering, why should I use the app rather than just the browser? Well, there are multiple benefits by using the app. The first one is a full screen application. So here you can see on the left, we have a phone using the browser, and on the right, we are using the app. So you can see how the app is taking the whole screen, exactly like a mobile application. I think it looks pretty cool. Another interesting feature is the ability to detect a loss of connectivity. So to be more technical, a progress web application works using what we call a service worker. It's basically, you can see it as like a small piece of code that is running outside the web application. And we can use this piece of code to be a proxy between our application and the network. So you can see the network as a group of nodes. My picture is not really correct. It should be more like a group of nodes. And the good thing is we can use this service worker to detect when we're losing internet. If you go into airplane mode or for any reason you don't have access to internet anymore, the service worker will be able to detect it. And in that case, we can inform the user that we don't have internet anymore. But the good thing is we can do that still inside the app if you're using the Progress web application. How can we show the app if we don't have access to internet? Well, the answer is we're using the cache. So when you switch to a Progress web application, it allows us to use an offline cache from the browser. So basically, when you install the app, it creates a new icon on your home screen, good, but it also puts some files in the cache. And that's very useful because when you will have to open the app again, most of the files will be already downloaded. We just take them from the cache. And because of that, the app will load way faster. So in terms of optimization and making the app really fast, it's really good. And of course, once the app is loaded, we still check the network, if it's available, to see if some files need to be updated. Everything is done in the background. And if there is an update for any file, it's going to update the web application as well as the cache for the next loading. And finally, the last, and in my opinion, the most significant feature is no censorship. So in addition to how easy it is to install, you will notice how choosing any kind of store like the App Store or the Play Store. And for us, being able to install our app without using any kind of centralized store is just awesome. So we expect this feature to release in a few weeks, as well as some code optimization. Our goal being always to make the app faster and easier to use for everyone. So yeah, thank you. I'm going to pass it back to Daniel.
Thank you, Julian. All right, let's see.
I made you the host, Daniel.
Perfect. Okay. There's some questions that I'm gonna answer right now, and then we'll move on. Really good questions. So let me get to them. Question from Sean: can you speak some to what defenses are in place to protect Pocketnet against malicious nodes? More specifically, what defenses are there against groups or individuals attempting to deplatform and take down Pocketnet? So, I mean, the good thing is that we have the benefit of Bitcoin's existence, and it's been around for a while, and it's a great testing ground because such a high stakes platform, and we are using we built a whole platform on top of Bitcoin. We changed many things, but the core mechanism of protecting against the node's malicious activity are there. On top of what Bitcoin has, we also have implemented essentially checks that the content of the data, the content of the social network posts are always hashed into a database, and that's hashed into a blockchain. So blockchain is intimately connected to the content of the post. So really, what if some nodes, like nodes cannot take down Pocketnet, that they cannot do that. There are other entities that could try to take down Pocketnet, and I'll talk about that. Actually, that's very important. We thought about these exercises, but what nodes could try to do is they could try to wreak havoc by not providing correct information. For example, trying to put some video on the top, which is not on the top, right? What we have here is the front end application, what Julian is working on, whether it's a mobile app or the browser, but more the desktop app. It's going to be able to query multiple nodes and check if it suspects that the node is malicious, it will ban it. So we have a mechanism, we're using this novel mechanism of front-end applications being both the optimization layer So front-end applications go to different nodes, they check the latency, they check all these things, and then ultimately they're going to switch to the nodes that are fast and that work well. I'm actually going to show you real quick. You may see this thing in your Pocketnet if you sign up. If you go to the system, right? If you go to your account and you go to system, you will see there are proxy servers, and then you see your node, because you can run a node right from the application. Soon we're making a very light node that you can run from any computer. And then you can go to the section that's called Pocketnet nodes. Here, notice that I have a list of some peers. This is not a full list of nodes. These are just the nodes that are closest to the ones I know. And notice that it's got the latency, 900 milliseconds, 700 milliseconds, 42 milliseconds, and 214, 275. So what it's going to do periodically, every like some period, it will check. And it actually, there's a node which is 42 milliseconds away, which means that it's probably locally close to me. So it will switch to that node automatically. And that's very important. It happens, but it can also switch nodes that if the node misbehaves, the front end application can check nodes against each other. And if the node misbehaves, it will ban it. So it doesn't mean that there's no system that's indestructible or invulnerable, but the danger from nodes is not very, very high. I think the real danger is in, let's say, recently there were news, Denmark blocked all of the bitshoot.com domain. So it doesn't allow basically bitshoot.com. Also, it's possible to, have much wider bans like China, right? Doesn't allow a lot of the traffic into the country. But in fact, we are releasing a Mandarin version. We don't care because this is not a single server. They can't really touch that server. It's like Bitcoin traffic. They have to really do what's called deep packet inspection. And they have to inspect these packets and they say, oh, this is a Pocketnet packet. Let me stop it. This slows down the internet. The only country in the world that's capable of doing that right now is China. But even that is not, it's not the final word here because we're working on encryption. The packets between nodes will be encrypted using like a stream cipher. And then those deep packet inspection doesn't help you because you will not know, you will not be able to decipher it. Then you have to run nodes. And by the time the node gets the package, you decipher it and find out other nodes have gotten it. So we thought about the system, in early Bitcoin years, if you read, I don't know if you read all of the emails that Satoshi Nakamoto had with a group of people on that list, they actually brainstormed the Bitcoin being turned off in certain countries or in large parts of the world. We've built Pocketnet to that level kind of censorship resistance. Even if it's banned in a certain country, the app in that country will be able, like BitChute is banned, so Denmark could ban Pocketnet.app, but that doesn't mean that users in Denmark will experience anything because they just have to get the app though. They have to get either the desktop app or what Julian described, the PWA app on the mobile. If they use the browser, of course, the browser is blocked. Ultimately, I think we'll get to censorship where domains will be taken away, like Pocketnet.app, because DNS, right? DNS resolution is like a certain part of, that's like a switch. Somebody could stop resolving to that DNS address. So we're building for a very robust system. But I do want to say this, that, for everybody on the call here, you are pioneers. We wanted to get, why did we do these sessions, right? We have enough work of coding and designing. We did these sessions because we want more like-minded pioneers. We want people to connect with us. So I'm going to give you our email or, connect to us, see how you can help us. We need help because we don't have VC money. We're working not for money. Everybody works volunteer or for Pocket Coin. You can help us by participating. You can also help us by buying Pocket Coin because that allows us to pay more developers, allow us to attract creators. So if you're able at all, please go to Biloxi and buy Pocket Coin because getting the value up helps us really take on Facebook and all these entities. So I think I answered the question about decentralization and nodes trying to attack it. There are a couple other good questions. Let me get to them. There was a question. We need live video. So Clifford said we need live video that will bring a lot of bloggers. That is a great question. Next Thursday, and I hope you invite your friends and then bring people to that session next Thursday and show up, because we're not going to release full recordings. Next Thursday, we're going to talk about the video. Our plan is to release live streaming by next Thursday, believe it or not. It's been in the works. What you're seeing right now is, for the last year, we worked a lot on the infrastructure, and it wasn't visible. People were like, well, we need to go faster. But you know what? You can't go faster. You need to build the infrastructure. Now it's there. You'll see releases coming very, very fast. We're testing chat, fully like encrypted. It's as safe, I think, as Signal, with some improvements, I think, chat, but we're also releasing live streaming. Other questions, when will be there a video on how to set up a node? Yeah, we should create one. We will create one. Somebody wrote, this is why Ethereum needs to be the internet to replace our current internet protocols. I agree to some degree, maybe a large degree. I have some reservations about Ethereum due to its decentralization nature. I think it's still reliant on Vitalik, but we'll see how that plays out. Yet we are in the process, we as Pocketnet are in the process of getting a domain that is, for those who know, it's a crypto domain that doesn't depend on a DNS. Marcin, my problem with Pocketnet is I was running the node with dynamic IP. I got no payment. That was for 2 months. Please email support@pocketnet.com. We'll deal with it. So let me get to the next slides. Some really important points that I want to cover. So the future of Pocketnet. Oops, excuse me. Let me start the slideshow again. Okay, we talked about the economics. We talked a lot about censorship, but we also need to talk about the economics. Bloggers in the long run will move to Pocketnet. That is a given, because they're going to make much more on a platform like Pocketnet. Why? Because when they're on YouTube, look at Google's earnings. Where do these earnings come from? Yes, different places, but they come from the creators mostly. As creators give it value. So in Pocketnet, creators get all of the value. And we really are talking about not so much about the emission, but about advertising. So in Pocketnet, we are building a decentralized alternative to like Google AdWords, if you will. So there will be a special place where, let's say you want to advertise, you will come in and say, I'm looking for bloggers with the audience of gaming. I'm looking for bloggers with these kinds of stats. And you will see offers by those bloggers to advertise on their channels. You will click and you'll be able to offer them to run an ad on their channel. And that's going to be the first signature of a multi-signature transaction. Then the blogger, when they review it, what they're going to do is they're going to say yes or no. If they say no, it's done. Nothing happens. The ad doesn't go. Let's say they didn't like it. But if they say yes, that ad is going basically to be published. So at the same time, the blogger publishes the ad and gets paid. So you can think of it as completely risk-free, decentralized advertising marketplace. That bloggers will be able to make all of the money, just minus the transaction fees. And with the transaction fees, I will say that's why, about your comment about Ethereum, I do agree that it will run a lot of the backbone of the internet, but it cannot be the blockchain for everything, or even for most things. It is just impossible. If you look at what it can handle, the fees are too high. That's why we did our own blockchain. We have tens of thousands of transactions a day sometimes. I mean, imagine the gas we would have to pay. So I think that the future in platforms are mostly in having, there's going to be like maybe 12 to 15 surviving blockchains, and then the rest will be on top of it. But it will not be one surviving Ethereum and one surviving Bitcoin. There'll be more, just simply because you cannot put everything into that Ethereum. Consumers, they're going to get top content, and they have a lot more choice, right? With Pocketnet, you have a choice. You don't have Twitter coming in and deciding we're going to push this thing, we're going to push this narrative on you, or we're going to do this or that. So and participants also have opportunity to earn Pocket Coin. We're building in the platform where by recognizing strong content early, they'll be able to also earn money. But privacy is the biggest thing. As a consumer, as a user, you win privacy. We don't record your keystrokes. We can't. It's open source. You can see we don't. The chat is encrypted. It is not like WhatsApp. Even Telegram right now, it's not, a lot of it is not in peer-to-peer encrypted. So you're no longer being like sold as a good. You're using the platform, you're using it, but it's not using you back. And that's the point. And security. I've said this many times, people don't appreciate the kind of age we are entering. Well, we're entering crazy times for many, many reasons, unfortunately. But there's one reason that people don't appreciate. What people don't appreciate, to what degree is cybersecurity gonna be a problem in the next decade? And there are many reasons for that. I'm not gonna get into all of them, but I just say that there are many interested parties to take your data. It's not just like a teenage hacker in a basement. There are very serious organizations. Some of them are those that are claiming to be hacked, that want your data out there. They want to distribute your data. They want to dox you, whatever. And with centralized platforms, it's just a matter of time. It is just a matter of time before your data gets out. Whatever you store on a centralized platform, again, it's just a matter of time before you see that get out. With crypto, it's different. With Pocketnet, you have one private key. Private key controls everything. It controls your social network, controls your wallet, it controls your messenger. All of the messenger keys are derived from it. So therefore, it's really a responsibility. You have to hold your private key. But even if you lose your private key, which is very bad, very bad, don't do it, then the other million people are not affected. Whereas if somebody breaks into Capital One or whatever, you're all affected and you have no control. Advertisers. So I already talked a little bit about this. Advertisers will have a very strong advantage on Pocketnet. The strong advantage will be that when you advertise on YouTube or Facebook, and those advertising channels can work sometimes, and I've done some, I know something about marketing, even though I'm a math geek at heart and in my mind. But when you advertise on YouTube, you have to trust their numbers. When you advertise on LinkedIn, you have to trust that the views and clicks they're showing you are real. I will tell you, I have serious doubt frequently. Almost always, I have serious doubt when I run these campaigns. And I know marketing, I know how it works. And I do believe that, there are studies, I don't believe it. There are studies that say that fake book, I should call them that, right? Fake book, that's a good one. Fake book fakes ad views by up to 900%. There are lawsuits against them with substantial evidence to that effect. All right. So when we have a decentralized platform, everybody wins. Now, it's a long road. We've already done a lot of work. There's a lot of work remains. What I'd like you to consider is how you can support Pocketnet. Because look, we're a group of people. Everybody in the team, you have to understand that we're distributed around the world and we don't even know sometimes each other, but very well, not personally for sure, but everybody is successful to some degree, right? All of us have, just by virtue of doing this is very complex. And so we didn't need this aggravation in our lives. We all had fairly comfortable lives. We did it because we think people need it. We do it for our kids, for future of our kids to have this. So we're basically calling you to action. Sign up, invite your friends, buy Pocketcoin, whatever. If you can find, developers, marketers, let's create a big team. And lately, more and more people are joining. This is great to see. We have a whole marketing agency that came to us that is working for Pocketcoin. We have people who are coming in and saying, look, I want to support you. I'm going to buy and hodl, Pocketcoin. So do that. I'm calling you to arms. It's a call to arms. Can users ban advertisers of adversarial companies within media, big tech, big pharma? That's a good question, David. Users cannot ban, but they can show their displeasure with the blogger. If the blogger takes the ads from companies, they have to consider how their audience is going to react. That's why in our decentralized marketplace, blogger has to first check and verify the account that the post is correct, that the audience will not be upset with it, and this is right for them. Okay. All right. So please connect with us. go to Bilixi, buy some Pocket Coin, and make sure you join us on Thursday. That's a week from now. We'll talk about video, and I'll go out on a limb. Developers may kill me for that, but we will unveil live streams next Thursday. Okay. Thank you all for attending. Please join us next Thursday. I'll see you then. We're just beginning our journey. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
It's almost an hour. Thank you, Julian. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.